Hi all, Ben here from East West, bringing you another video in our Python for Finance for Python Beginners series. So in this video, I thought I might combine some technical analysis with some fundamental analysis, and we will do that by combining some of the programs that we've already written. So what we're going to do here is basically copy the code that we made in part 2 of the Mark Minervini trend template video. So if you did do that video, then you should have a copy of the code already, which is going to be very handy now. Now, if you didn't do it and you'd like to code this for yourself, then you'll need to go back and write the code that is presented in that video, and then you'll be able to follow along in this video. I'll put a link in, and I'll just put a little note here in the video so you can link to that if you wish. Now, what we need to do is to go into the folder where you had that program. So I've just got system examples here, and if we open this folder, so this is one I've called Minervini trend template all stocks. That's the one that we need for this program. So what we want to do now is to click this box and then come up here and duplicate, and now we can see here we've got copy 1. So let's go into this notebook, and here we are with our code already typed out. So a couple of things to tidy up. First, let's change the headings and descriptions to avoid confusion, as well as the YouTube link. Okay, so I've made those changes. You can change them to whatever you wish. Now we need to do a pip install for the libraries that will be needed. Now remember, if you've already installed these libraries, you don't need to do them again. Now also, the original code didn't import MPL Finance, so we need to actually add that in as well here when we import MPL Finance as MPF. Okay, a couple of other things. Let's cut down how much data we're downloading by changing the days from 731, just basically 2 years, and I'm just going to say 380, say for example, it just as long as it's a little bit longer than 365. Now also, if the fix error cell is commented out, we just want to uncomment by highlighting everything and hitting Control/ like that. Now, even though we should be able to simply add onto this program at the bottom, we can just come down here and do that. It's probably best practice to actually just rerun the entire program just to freshen it up, if you like. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now we're up to the onerous task of going through this data. Now, as the program starts to churn through this process, you may be thinking, do I really have to download all this data every time I run this program? Well, the short answer is, paraphrase Reverend Lovejoy, the short answer is yes with an if, and the long answer is no with a but. So yes, you do have to if you don't want to learn about databases, and no, but you do need to learn about databases. So there's a dirty fix that I can think of with spreadsheets, but it's probably not ideal unless you're dealing with only a small number of stocks. So I might look at that in another video. Otherwise, it's a whole new series on SQLite, and I'm not that 100% up to speed on that, but I certainly could produce something if there was sufficient demand for it, and I could, at the very least, get something up and working that would eliminate the need to constantly download data. Anyway, back to it. And we're still just churning through here, so I'm going to pause the video here, let the program finish off executing all the cells, and go and read War and Peace. So here we are at the end of the list of stocks that meet the criteria, but let's say we want to actually filter these by some fundamental metrics. So how would we do this? Well, we can go through the steps from the fundamentals video and then use the results to refine our list down a bit further. So let's start by making a new list of the codes that we want to check, and I'll call this check. Now, next we're going to need a blank list to append to, so I will call that list best for the best stocks. And now we need to run a simple loop and download the fundamentals for our list of stocks. So remember, that's going to take a little bit of time because it's got to download all that information for all those stocks. So I'll just pause the video here until that's done. Okay, so now that is done, so let's create a new data frame to store the information that we processed into our list best. So I will just call that data frame value. Now I also want to set the index as the symbol column, so let's do that as well. And now I'm going to shape the data, if you like, by requesting only the metrics I'm interested in. And in this video, I'm going for the standard trailing PE, forward PE, price to book ratio, debt to equity ratio, free cash flow, and the PEG ratio. Now, if you want to know a bit more about those, I just got them off Wikipedia. I'm just doing this as an example. Now, finally, let's just call up the I don't think that'll work because it's a camera. Let's just call up the data frame by running the cell. Okay. So now we've managed to shuffle in all those key metrics for these stocks. So now I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to ask the user what metric they want to sort the data frame by. So to do this, I'm firstly going to print out a list of options, and then I'm going to assign a variable via the input function. So when we run the cell, the user will be asked for a code, and then it's just a matter of entering one of these codes in. So let's just try the price to book ratio, and we hit enter. So we've stored that to a variable, and now I'm going to run through a bunch of if statements. So I'm using the elif. If answer, the answer which is the variable that we've assigned here, if that equals TPE, then the metric is trailing PE. Else if, elif statements, which we haven't covered, but they should be pretty straightforward. You can see what's going on there. Now, this is a bit sloppy and pretty inefficient, but it will work. Now, in fact, if I was tightening up the code, I'd probably be using functions in a few places, and we haven't covered functions yet. But I do believe it's better to code the long way while you're learning, so you can understand what the program's doing. If you start taking shortcuts and things go wrong, it can be a bit harder to trace back where the problem might be. Okay, so now we can sort the data frame by the selected metric. And we can simply do that by sort values function, and we just pass the metric, the actual metric that we've assigned in these if statements into here, and sending false, and then we just want to call up the data frame once more. And now the data frame is sorted by the price to book ratio, and obviously the highest price to book ratio is the one on the top. So I will just throw in one more line just so I can actually remember what it is that I've sorted by. So this is probably a bit superfluous. You probably don't need to do that, but I'm just going to say that the data is sorted by price to book so I can remember what I'm doing. Okay, now just to finish up, let's just say, for instance, that we just wanted to grab the best 4 stocks for our selected metric, and we wanted to just have a look at a bit of a chart, see what was going on with those. So once again, maybe a bit superfluous this part, but let's just go through the process anyway, because by doing this we're sort of combining some other things that we've done previously. So we're going to just set up some new data frames for the purposes of charting. So first we just need to create a list. So from chart, okay, and remember chart is we're going to create a new list called chart, and we're just going to take the first 4 rows of we're going to take the first 4 rows of this data frame called value, and we're only going to take the stocks. So we've got 4 stocks that we're passing into this list. Next, I'm just going to set a different date. Maybe we want a little bit more data on this. Maybe we want, I mean, you can have as much data as you want, really. It's just that the longer the time frame the longer it'll take to download. But let's just pass in sort of 2 years roughly from today's date going back. And so we're only dealing with 4 stocks here because this is just the example that we're using. So what we're going to do now is just make basically 4 new data frames, and we're just going to download the first entry of the chart list that we've made up here, and also into this data frame we're going to just insert the code that is dealing with. So we've got to do that 4 times. So once again, this is all a little bit sort of sloppy and bloated in terms of coding, but we just want to run through these examples so it stays nice and clear. So we can just now run this cell, and we just download the information for those 4 stocks. So now let's just make the charts, and we can do this the same way as we did in the MPL plotting video, but this time I'm making 4 charts into one. So I'm stipulating the panel for each thing that I'm adding in here, and I've got my data frames here. And the only other thing that I'm doing here that's a bit different is I'm actually giving these charts a Y label, and I'm just going to take the code for each data frame, and I'll just take the last one so it doesn't get confused about what it's trying to grab. So now once that's all done, we can just simply run the cell, and there are our charts for the 4 stocks. So we can see if there's something going on here that interests us. This is just a bit of an overview, but if we think we see something, just looking at this, you can see nice trend here, but maybe KLAC is running out of steam. Same here. These ones look like maybe the trend's still going, but nonetheless, just lastly, what we'll do is we'll just set up a request for maybe one of the individual charts. So let's just quickly do that to finish off. So I'll just start off here by doing something similar with an input request, and we're just going to request one of the stock codes here. So if we just run this cell, we will go, let's just go TJX. Okay, now that has been assigned. So once again, a bit sloppy and long-winded, but we'll just run through these if statements to assign what we're looking for, just to make sure that we're getting the right data into our variable. So once we get this line of code in here, we're just passing in the stock, and we are making the title of this chart the request, which was this. Okay, so all we need to do now is to run this cell. And there we get our 2-year chart of TJX. So that's a bit of a long-winded example of combining a few different programs that we've already written into one to enhance some screening. So I'm hoping that as we move along through the videos that some of your own ideas are starting to germinate, and that you can start to try to code some of them out for yourself. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.